Colorado's new traction law designed to keep I-70 open in the snow got another test. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. It's not working because people are not following the law. 2 storms, 2 total slip shows on the interstate. I-70 was shut down last night from just west of Denver up to Idaho Springs. Colorado's traction law appears to lack traction. And here's the best part. CDOT and the State Patrol told Anusha Roy they didn't expect it to work this winter.
Yeah, you know, Kyle, they were actually really upfront and honest about it. They were like, no, it's not going to have a dramatic change right off the bat. So CDOT actually just came up with some recommendations by September 1st about how to actually enforce it. They're still researching those and which ones they like best and if some of the options are even legal. So let's go ahead and start with the idea of a checkpoint to make sure people have the right tires or chains and tire socks between September and May. So this is in CDOT's report, but they're a little hesitant about it. They're still trying to figure out if it's even legal and already said they may not have the manpower to carry all of this out. They are also looking into possibly requiring people to go to a tire shop and get their tires checked every winter for free. Some of those bigger changes, though, if they even happen, wouldn't take place until next winter. That is, again, in that CDOT report. As for now, they really like the idea of just using some good old-fashioned education. That includes contemplating leaving brochures in cars at different resorts along I-70 to remind drivers, hey, there's this new law, you might want to pay attention to it. So, like I said, CDOT still researching all of these recommendations. We asked the State Patrol, when do you think you're going to start citing people about this? They said, oh, we don't really know. So far, no one has been cited. And CSP says they typically are giving people, a couple months, a grace period. Hey, there's this new rule. And then at some point, they're going to start getting people in trouble.
If they put up checkpoints and slow down traffic, or if they're forcing people to go to tire shops, people are going to revolt. So they're just going to tuck literature under your windshield wiper like an obscure religious organization.
Yeah, or like, the random, like, we'll clean your windshield kind of ads,
Yeah, exactly, that kind of thing.
Hey, there's a new law on I-70.
We should be clear, though, like, they're not surprised that it's not working.
Not at all. We even talked to one of the sponsors of the bill, and he was like, yeah, listen, I mean, it was going to take some time for this to kind of get traction, per se, and he knew that the enforcement was going to take a while to work on, so this was a long-term project for them. They weren't expecting it to change anything in the next couple of months.
All right. Thank you, Anusha. The 24 hours since the release of the report on Colorado's Catholic priest abuse scandal, it has been a scramble, both for victims and for the accused priests who didn't know exactly when it was going to be released. The 166 victims in the report are not named. Most of the 43 priests are. And another one told our Mark Salinger today that he's innocent.
The Catholic faithful will tell you that God knows everything. Father Leo Bonfadini is comfortable with that.
You're a man of faith.
Yes.
When the day comes to meet God,
yes,
will you stand there with a clean conscience?
Yes. I will stand there with a clean conscience. I did not do that act.
Bonfadini is accused of raping a 17-year-old boy in the rectory of his church in Pueblo in 1979.
Unconditionally, I'd never touched that guy.
Bonfadini says he knows his accuser and complied with the church's investigation, which was inconclusive. The church never reported the accusation to police.
There was a series of diocesan meetings, of course, and there's every reason to be as to whether or not they would move me from the parish or not. The decision was not to.
Though the Attorney General's report finds no exculpatory evidence clearing Bonfadini, he maintains his innocence. Police are not going to investigate the allegations.
But if you have not brought those charges by that time, it's a complete bar in the prosecution of a case.
Mitch Morrissey is the former district attorney in Denver. He says only when DNA is involved can cases of sexual abuse be prosecuted more than 10 years later.
I wouldn't be surprised on the tail of this report that there isn't some movement in the legislature to change the Colorado statute of limitations.
Bonfadini believes God knows everything.
And I did not rape a 17-year-old boy.
Still, he wants his accuser to clear his name.
I would just ask him to tell the truth.
So back to the statute of limitations. In Massachusetts, it was changed following reports of rampant sexual abuse in the Catholic Church there. Kyle, the new law gives child abuse victims there more than 30 years to sue their accusers.
And Mark, so far you've tracked down 2 of these priests willing to talk to you. We only think there are 10 of them living, one's in jail right now?
Yeah, according to our research going through these 260 some pages of this report, we think that about 9 of them are still living. We don't know how many of them still live in Colorado, but we've tracked down 2. Both of them have denied the accusations to us.
Mark Salinger, thank you. One of the priests named in the report later became a Colorado state senator. John Benno from Pueblo was accused of sexually abusing 2 victims in the 1960s. The victims both said that Benno threatened them with eternal damnation if they told anyone. Benno was elected to the state Senate as a Democrat in the 1980s, and he died in 2000. We've talked so much about what this priest abuse report covers. Let's talk about what it doesn't cover. Abused by a priest as an adult? Not covered. Abuse by seminary students? Not covered. Abuse by priests from religious orders running schools or churches? Not covered. Those were all excluded by the deal that was struck by the church when it agreed to participate in the investigation.
This report was limited by agreement, doesn't cover religious order priests, doesn't involve sexual misconduct involving adults. Should that be looked at with the same kind of scrutiny, and do you plan to do that?
So we've focused on where we saw the biggest area of concern, which was minors by priests. Whether there would be other such episodes in the future remains to be seen.
Attorney General Phil Weiser says there are no plans for expanded investigations. So Kevin Vaughn from our 9 Wants to Know team put the question to the former U.S. attorney who conducted this investigation.
Should there be a similar reckoning and accounting of religious order priests, for example?
Wouldn't hurt.
How about sexual misconduct involving adults rather than juveniles?
I think there are definitely other religious institutions who've had this issue. There remain other issues that can be looked at, but not my call.
So take the case of a former Catholic priest named Neil Hewitt. He was accused of sexual abuse, and he admitted wrongdoing in a discussion with us. He was a counselor at a Catholic youth camp while he was in seminary, but that time period was not looked at because it was outside the scope of the investigation. Denver City Councilwoman Candice Ibaka is shaking up city politics in a way that few have recently. She is a fiercely progressive critic of Mayor Hancock and some of the other well-financed Democrats who have run Denver for decades. But Ibaka nearly stepped in it in trying to put her partner on the city payroll. This week, Ibaka said she would not seek to get an ethics waiver to do that. Ibaka said that she would learn and grow from the feedback that she got on that issue. In my view, that's a smart move. Whether it's Hunter Biden or President Trump's children, Americans are not interested in hearing about your qualifications if it looks like your family connections are helping you get that paycheck. Whether you agree or disagree with Councilwoman Ibaka's ideology, it is undeniable she's had an impact in her first few months on City Council, challenging the status quo on issues like development and public safety. And Ibaka has an interesting approach to affordable housing. It appears she's living rent-free in Mayor Hancock's head.
What do you make of her impact on city politics so far?
Well, I think you got to remember, I come from City Council. At the end of the day, we have to all move forward in the best interest of the people of this city. We can't get into political platitudes, and I can't react dramatically to what any one City Council member does or what any one member, a staff member of City Council does. The reality is, you still got to count to 7 on City Council to effect change. We can talk from a pulpit all day long, but at the end of the day, people will get tired of just talk. What are you doing to make sure that this city remains vibrant, active, jobs are available, and that people can live in our city? And that's what I'm focused on every day, not the distractions of someone who wants to just try to be disruptive.
You really believe that Councilwoman Ibaka is just talk and just wants to be disruptive?
I mean, the reality, the point I'm going to lay out to you once again, to do anything on City Council, you need 7. And unless you have the majority of council going with you to make that change, all you're doing is talking.
Councilwoman Ibaka tweeted a response of sorts to the mayor's comments about her. She tweeted, quote, crying laughing emoji, crying laughing emoji, crying laughing emoji, facepalm emoji, head exploding emoji, zipped lips emoji. 25 people in Denver will call for help today to ask for help surviving domestic violence. We'll hear more of their stories this month, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We also wanted you to be aware of some successful solutions for domestic violence survivors. Here's Steve Staker.
3 times a week, the seats around this table fill up, and the people who sit here will tell you the conversations they have save lives.
Now that we see the full picture, we're able to provide more robust advocacy for those victims.
This is where a process called triage plays out.
So triage is a multidisciplinary team of professionals that serve victims of domestic violence.
Each week, police investigators, members of the DA's office, and service providers review new domestic violence cases. Abby Hansen is with Safe House Denver, an emergency shelter and counseling service provider. Safe House has a seat at that table. Police point them toward victims. They point police toward best practices to help them.
We're able to provide insight into a trauma response. Why might a victim be acting or reacting in a certain way?
Before these meetings, everything was disconnected.
We would rely on our clients to tell us from their perspective what's going on in their case. And as you can imagine, because of trauma and crisis, the information is very mixed and they might not really fully understand.
Triage has been happening for more than a decade in Denver, and 3 years ago that idea spawned something else, the Rose Andom Center.
The idea was have a place where a victim can walk through one doorway and touch all of those resources.
Here, under one roof, victims can meet with investigators, get help from the DA's office with things like protection orders, and meet face-to-face with victims' advocates.
I think success is when a victim feels that sense of relief and that sense of hope.
And Monday, they'll add another service at the Rose Andom Center, officially opening a medical clinic there for primary care services. In some cases, victims are afraid to get those services because they're afraid of their abuser finding out.
Yeah, you might imagine if they're in charge of the insurance or so forth. And I mean, the idea here is not to enable prosecution, but that's what ends up happening.
Yeah, anecdotally, they're able to say that a lot more people, a lot more victims take part in the criminal justice process when they feel safe. And this process allows them to get those resources where they feel safe, then they feel more comfortable talking about what happened to them in court.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Steve.
It's snowing hard and they're still kicking it. It's the most Colorado thing we've seen today. And after a life spent in Denver, a 91-year-old just wanted to wave goodbye. That's next.
The most Colorado thing we've seen today is a group of tough young women. The Colorado Ice Under-12 girls team in Golden last night was like, no problem. They won their match against Rapid South in near whiteout conditions at times. Next viewer Jane Hampleman took these photos. Her daughter Casey's on the team. And they doubled up because Jamie Trotter shared them with us on Twitter. His daughter Savannah is also a player. They saw this and they knew it was perfect for our Most Colorado segment. Keep them coming. Email any photos you see to next@9news.com or use the hashtag HeyNext.
Our latest fall storm is out of here, and I don't know about you, but this looks like a little slice of heaven up in the Colorado high country with a little bit of light snow still coming down. With clear skies in Denver, a cold night expected. Our high, we did manage 42 with that afternoon sun, about 20 degrees below average, and we'll be back in the 60s tomorrow. We had a trace to 2 inches of snow in Denver, but some of the foothill areas like Red Rocks, 12 to 15 inches of snow. Gilpin County coming in with 9. And so this latest weather maker kind of helping out our snow totals for the year, and we'll get a chance to do that again on Sunday. As one storm system exits the region, the next one is already on the way, coming our way from the Pacific Northwest. Between now and then, a nice warm up though, but tonight's temperature down to 24 degrees with fair skies and light winds. A chilly start tomorrow, and then with sunshine, a high of 63. It's almost Friday. You've just about made it through the week. You think that looks good. Saturday, we'll call for a high of 70 ahead of the next round of cold and snow. This next storm will be colder. Highs in the 20s and lower 30s with 1 to 3 inches of snow by Monday morning, and still a little bit cool and unsettled heading into Tuesday afternoon. Temperatures back in the mid-50s mid-week. So keep those storm reports and storm pictures coming. We sure appreciate it.
Kathy, thank you. For 43 years, Sherry Colburn drove past the South Metro Firehouse in Centennial, a place that she saw built, and she always wished she could meet the firefighters there. At 91 years old, Sherry got her chance and the opportunity to wave farewell to a city she was about to leave, to wave farewell from the bucket truck at Firehouse 32 at Orchard and Quebec. Sherry says that since watching that place be built, being able to see firsthand was at the top of her list.
It was spectacular. I've lived in Colorado all my life, and in Denver most of my, and it was just beautiful, the whole scene. That was the most exciting experience I've had in recent years. Those firemen are A1.
This week, the Denver native boarded a plane and moved to Portland. She says there could not have been a better farewell to her hometown.
A year ago, we met Dr. Bob, a man with Alzheimer's who used music to hold on to his mind. He knew it was a battle he could prolong, but not win. Tonight, his family remembers a man who fought to remember them. Next.
We have met thousands of interesting Coloradans in our 3 years here together on Next, and perhaps you remember Dr. Bob, retired cardiologist named Dr. Robert Marshall. When Alzheimer's stole his memories, one of the last things to go was music. In particular, a special song Dr. Bob recorded in 1956.
Down the street before, but the pavement always stays beneath my feet before.
Dr. Bob passed away last Sunday. His daughters were at his side singing that song.
He was just an amazing human being. I just finished writing his obituary and I'm just kind of blown away by all the things he did with his life. He was a saver of lives. He was an incredibly smart person, but he also really valued quiet things like literature and music and time with family, and he was just a Renaissance man.
He was a brilliant cardiologist. He went to school at Johns Hopkins. He started the Denver Cardiology Group with some other partners here in Colorado.
He wrote an essay when he was in 8th grade that said, "I want to be a doctor." And, you know, some of those pictures are kind of from that age where, you know, when he was 12, 13 years old, he already knew this is what he was supposed to do with his life.
He battled Alzheimer's for 10 years, and it's been a really tough journey.
I really want to emphasize that if someone you love has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I think it's better to look at it as maybe they're not the person that they were, but there's someone else who's still contributing and still touching people's lives and still meeting new people that come to love them and still having an impact.
I think the biggest thing that I learned is you need to reach out and share with other people what you're going through.
He had 4 children, Rob, Carrie, Lisa, and Marla. He was a great dad to all 4 of us, and we all love him and we'll miss him.
You, as always, will get the final word. Your feedback is next. Everybody loves the girls playing soccer in the snow. Andy says soccer players in Colorado, the toughest. Blizzard? No worries. Nancy was curious about the town hall that we did with Denver Mayor Hancock on Tuesday and where you can find it. Nancy, that is up on the Next YouTube channel. You can watch it in full. And Teresa writes in, love your show, always disappointed when you're not here. You know who isn't disappointed when I'm not here? My family. We'll split the difference, though, and call it a deal. See you next time.